This is another opportunity for us to address some of the specific things that may be on the minds of 11th and 12th graders, tied to colleges, tied to driver's ed, some of those issues. We want to stay focused on things that are relevant to you. You've been getting a lot of information from Sacred Heart in other capacities via email, via newsletters. So tonight's an opportunity to answer some of your questions, both pre-submitted and in real time. Our agenda tonight will begin with our principal, Sister Gina Moore, and then I'll follow up with some issues of facilities and communication reminders, and then our assistant principals, Mrs. Crystal and Mrs. Sullivan, will dig into the questions that we've had in advance. So if you have questions while you're on the call tonight, you can send them through the chat function. We're joined by members of our communications team who will help facilitate your questions that happen in real time. So please use the chat function to help with those. And we are a group tonight of, I think, over 125. So we'll do our best to answer real-time questions. The earlier session went well on that. So hopefully we'll be able to get to many of the questions that you have. But the session tonight is being recorded and will be posted on our website. And we will revise the frequently asked questions section of the website based on any questions that we received this evening. So that's ways that we can try to give the information to you so that you can refer others to it and also refer back to it if you have questions. So now I'd like to invite Sister Gina Moore, our principal, to start us off.
Hello, Shaw families, and welcome to our version of the Sacred Heart Academy National Convention. But unlike the recent two conventions, ours will be an hour long. And the good news is that we know how the vote turns out. You have all voted unanimously and chosen Sacred Heart Academy. We are grateful for your vote of confidence in us in this difficult decision-making time. There is a prayer we, the adult Shaw community, often pray. It begins, it helps now and then to step back and take a long view. I'd like to start this meeting with a short, long view. In 2012, an 11-year-old Pakistani child learned that in some parts of the world, all girls went to school every day as part of their normal life, while in other parts, girls were starving for education. In her own country, girls were increasingly being banned from attending school. Encouraged by her humanitarian activist father, Malala Yousafzai attended a press conference. How dare the Pakistani Taliban take away my basic right to education, she asked her audience. Her speech was covered by newspapers and TV channels throughout the region. Shortly after, on her way home from school, she and two other school girls were shot. When she recovered, she spread her message all over, acclaiming, "I tell my story around the world, not because it's unique, but because it's the story of many girls." I retell the story of Malala to you because of your conviction, Shaw parents, in the value of Catholic education in an all-girls school. In the year 2020, in the midst of a pandemic affecting millions of people, in the midst of economic and employment instability, in the midst of racial injustices and violence, in the midst of your own personal challenges, losses, and longings for life to be the way it used to be, like Malala's father, your dreams for your daughter are stronger than your anxieties, worries, risks, and fears. We assure you, whether you are choosing to have your daughter start Sacred Heart in person or online, we want her Shaw experience to be one where she feels at home and loved, where she will be treated equally, no matter her social class, color, or nationality, and where her academic and leadership potential will be filled by a curriculum and a co-curriculum that are rich, rigorous, and unique. Right now, you have practical and important questions we need to answer, but I hope you will hold on to the long view. Over and over, we read, the future of our world is as bright as our girls. When girls can fulfill their promise and potential, poverty goes down, the economy grows, families are stronger, and babies are born healthier. When girls are educated, the whole country becomes stronger, more peaceful, and more prosperous. Rooted in the gospel of Jesus and the mission of the Sisters of St. Joseph, our Shah young women make a difference in the world. And so we pray, loving God, as we move forward in these difficult times, we will need courage, we will need energy, we will need vision. We will need to be at ease with ourselves and our decisions. And we pray this in the name of our God who continually creates us, redeems us, saves us, inspires us, and empowers us. Amen. And now Mrs. Graham will continue our meeting.
Amen. Thank you, Sister Jean. So I have said before that trust and transparency will be the hallmarks of our success this year. So that's our theme, trust and transparency. As you know, the reopening plan for Sacred Heart Academy, which has been approved, is both thorough and follows the CDC and New York State guidelines. All school plans are really reliant upon the commitment of families, students, and staff to recognize that they are also part of the process, that they need to share information with us and make a strong commitment to following our protocols in order to keep all of us safe and healthy. So you have my commitment and the commitment of the entire administration that we will be transparent with you. And I'll be transparent in the fact that it is likely that the opening of school will be a little bumpy, not just here at Sacred Heart, but at all schools. We're working with totally new protocols. We're getting used to being back together and managing lots of different feelings about that. So it's likely that we'll face a few bumps in the opening days. We ask that you be patient with us and be patient with your daughters. We will get there. It may take a little time, but throughout that, I think if we stay communicative and trustful and transparent, we will get there safely and happily. So I want to talk a little bit about communication. You may have been seeing on our social media posts where we know that most of our girls get information about Sacred Heart. We've launched an all-in campaign, and that's what we're using to describe the reopening of school at Sacred Heart. Sacred Heart, we are all in. And over those posts, we will use that as an opportunity to remind students about some of our new protocols, the CDC guidelines like hand washing, mask wearing. And one reminder you'll see is that we're asking students and families not to travel to any of the areas that are noted by New York State as high risk for the 2 weeks prior to the start of school. So we're right in that window at this time. So this is for your own safety and the safety of the Sacred Heart community at large. We'll also be asking students to participate in a social responsibility pledge where they actually acknowledge some of the things that we're needing them to do, and that'll come to them via email. And that's just another way, again, not a binding way, but a recognizing way that their commitment is very important to the success of our reopening. We've also included these videos and tips on the reopening page of our website, so you can find them right from our homepage. And we've really redesigned the homepage so that you can easily find information about this school year and Sacred Heart's reopening plans. If you ever need to go back or refer to anything, it should all be easy for you to find on the school's homepage. We've restarted a weekly newsletter, which began last week, so be sure to check your email on Shaw's learning management system. We refer to that as a portal. Many other schools will refer to that as a learning management system. But either way, it's an essential way for you to stay in touch with a lot of the information that's going to be coming to you this year. So please be sure that you're familiar with that and that you're checking it frequently. We've also shared an academic calendar, but as we've also communicated, we decided not to print it. And I know as a mom of 2 school-age children, that can feel a little disarming if you don't have a printed calendar to refer to. But all of the events on that calendar are in real time, and so you can download it onto your phone, which I find the best way to stay in touch with the information at Sacred Heart. And that changes in real time. So if there's a change to the calendar, if you've downloaded it, it'll change to your phone. And information on the calendar online will also be changed in real time. And now I want to address some of the building changes that have taken place. You've read in the guidance that was given to all schools that schools should really look carefully at how spaces in their building could be repurposed in order to facilitate learning. So we did that very carefully here at Sacred Heart, and major changes have taken place to our faculty room and cafeteria. And if you're 11th and 12th grade families, you're sending back students who know that cafeteria well. The earlier call, some of the ninth graders wouldn't have known that the cafeteria looks very different, but today it looks very different. It's been repurposed so that 2 learning spaces have been placed in the cafeteria because lunch will no longer take place in the cafeteria. And Mrs. Crystal will speak to that. The faculty room has been divided so that the largest portion of that room will now also be a classroom. Hands-free faucets have been put into all of our restrooms, so students no longer need to touch the water faucets to wash their hands. They're hands-free underneath. Air conditioning units will be placed in each of our classrooms. I know you've been hearing a lot about ventilation in classrooms, but air conditioning will at least allow us to manage extreme heat. Windows can be left open. Doorways will also be left open while an air conditioning unit is on to facilitate the maximum ventilation. And a generous benefactor has donated 50 HEPA filters with UV lights to Sacred Heart. Those HEPA filters are sort of referred to as the gold standards of ventilation. They're small and they can easily be placed in the front or the back of the classroom, which was important to us since space is so much of the essence. That order was placed in the middle of August, and there's a 4 to 6 week lead time. So while I do not expect they will be here on September 8th, I can say by mid to late September, all of our classrooms will have a HEPA filter to facilitate with ventilation, which I think will be very important, not only to our students, but to our faculty. Plexiglass has been ordered and is being installed as it arrives in computer labs, the library, the main office, the nurse's office, the cafeteria, and on teachers' desks. So that presents an additional way to prevent interaction between people and to maximize some of the guidelines. I want to address physical and social distancing, the greatest challenge at 47 Cathedral Avenue. Currently, 3% of our students have elected virtual learning. So that's 3% of a community that's over 880 students. There are varying guidelines on physical distancing. We have done everything possible here at Sacred Heart to increase space in our classrooms. We've removed cabinets, we've discarded old material, we've maneuvered desk sizes and configurations, we've revisited scheduling assignments. However, we have not been able to grow that building. I wish we could, but we couldn't. So you know the building as 11th and 12th graders, you know the building, and our enrollment is holding steady with 220 incoming ninth graders and an enrollment of 883 students. So if I'm true to my commitment of transparency, which I am, I want you to hear this from me now. The mask is the most important way Sacred Heart Academy will stay compliant with all of our guidelines. All students must wear a face covering at all times while on our campus in order to remain compliant with all of our guidelines. Desks have been put in classrooms to accommodate the largest number of students that will ever be taught in that space during the day. So a class may have 30 desks in it, and at one given time, your daughter may only be in that classroom with 18 students. That will allow for a lot more physical distancing if she's in a class where the students in the classroom are not relevant to the desks in that classroom. However, there may be times when she's in a classroom where there are not as many students in the classroom as there are desks. That's where the mask becomes our way to stay completely compliant. So I want to be transparent with you. I don't want to surprise you. We haven't grown the building. We're at full capacity. We have hired hall monitors, so that's additional adult staff that will be in our hallways to assist with mask compliance and orderliness in the hallways during class transition. That's one of the major times when we know we'll have the largest number of students in a space that we need to be safe and stay as true as we can to the physical distancing. Um, but physical distancing is a challenge in our building. As you can imagine, lunch presents additional challenges. So that's an environment when students need to remove their mask. Mrs. Crystal will speak to that in greater detail and some of the things that we've done to protect us and be compliant with the guidelines for lunch while we're in classroom spaces. We have placed 3 tents on our campus. One is immediately outside of the cafeteria space. One is in front of the guidance complex, and a very large tent, similar to the one that we used at graduation, has been placed on our practice field. The large tent will be used for the opening week of school, for grade level meetings, and for other uses as we design. And we're still working out the best way that they can be used for both instruction and socialization. But as you heard me say in the last video, as we were recording that, we were in the middle of a semi-hurricane. So tents are weather dependent, they're technology dependent, but they do give us options and they give us the ability to stay flexible, particularly during the opening weeks of school, to see what we need and to see how we can use them going forward. I sincerely believe that Sacred Heart Academy is a community uniquely positioned to meet this moment. We have students who want to be back in school. We have families who are committed to it. We have a faculty who are all in. And so I think we can meet this moment safely, working together. And I want to be sure we get to the questions that we've submitted in advance. And so I'm going to turn it over now to Mrs. Sullivan, our assistant principal, to address some of the previously submitted questions. Mrs. Sullivan?
Sacred Heart families, nice to see you again. Thank you for submitting questions. As Mrs. Graham stated, we are hoping that we can provide you with additional clarity. I'd like to start by addressing the question received on arrival procedures. Previously, when students got off the bus, they would have gathered in the cafeteria until the bell rang, and then they would head off to homeroom. We will no longer be doing this. Students will now enter through the theater doors and proceed straight to homeroom. So they're going to come in through the theater lobby doors. Before a student arrives at school, parents and guardians must go to a smart button app. That should be launched by the end of the week, just so you know. You'll get instructions on how to use it, and you'll be answering a few questions, and you must take the student's temperature at home. If a self-check is not noted by our little app, an alert will be sent home and to the school to remind you. The Smart Button app will be launched again this week, probably toward the end of the week, and instructions will be sent with that. Before a student may enter the building through the front theater lobby doors, she must be masked. Her temperature is taken with a thermal scan. If her temperature is 100 degrees Fahrenheit or higher, the student will sit out for 5 or so minutes. Her temperature will be retaken. If it remains at 100 degrees Fahrenheit or higher, she will sit in an isolation room. Parents will be called, and she must be picked up immediately. Please, when you're doing your prize, could you please make sure that anyone who's on the contact can be gotten to right away, that they can come pick up the girls? We'd really appreciate that. Students will be brought out to the parents' car. All right, so you don't have to come in. We'll bring the students out to the front to your car. And in order for the student to come back to school, they must have medical clearance. As for school district transportation, we ask that you please contact your school district's transportation office. If you have not yet requested transportation, there has been an extension up until September 4th, 2020. Please keep in mind, we have about 50 or so districts that we pull from. So please try to get in contact with them this week if you need transportation. The Sean van will be available to transport our students to and from the train, for those of you who do use it. Following dismissal, we expect that most students will be picked up or take the bus home. We will, however, have an area for students who are waiting rides. The school building closes and all students need to be picked up by 5 p.m. So this, again, we haven't changed the times for opening and closing. School will still open at 7 a.m. and will still close at 5 p.m. Regarding driver's ed, New York State has approved new guidelines for driver education. We will be utilizing those new guidelines to complete all aspects of driver education remotely. Details are still in discussion and will be posted to our webpage soon. We're planning to resume classes September 30th. That will be for the spring 2020 students. We are considering ways to accommodate the summer 2020 students that were canceled and for some Shaw seniors. More details, again, will be forthcoming from our director of the driver's education program. Now, as for quarantine notifications and testing, the New York State and CDC guidelines on quarantine notification testing have been shared already, but I realize there are still some additional questions. As the site coordinator, myself and Mr. Rappaport are the site coordinators for COVID-19, for testing and tracing. I will try to answer your questions as best as possible that have been sent on ahead of time. The first question is, if my daughter gets a cold, does she need to be quarantined for 14 days? Any student who is showing COVID-19-like symptoms and is sent home from school must have a medical clearance to return. Her medical professional will make a determination as to whether she needs to be tested and/or quarantined. She may return to school only with a medical clearance. The next question is, should a student be exposed to another student with COVID? How will we know how close they have been to the infected students? If a student tests positive for COVID-19, the Department of Health will notify those students who were in close contact with that person, keeping the identity of the person confidential. Is it possible for Sacred Heart to provide group saliva tests for the students and staff, and is there a testing protocol in place? The CDC does not recommend universal testing. If a family would like to be tested, they may contact their health providers. The next question is, what is the current guidance you must follow that would determine if you need to close in person and switch to online? The Department of Health determines school closures. Typically, if a case is reported, the DOH will require the school to be closed for 1 to 2 days for thorough cleaning and will determine the appropriate reopening. We report all cases to DOH and follow their guidance. Many of you have asked about athletics. This communication was sent last week, but if you don't mind, I'll just restate what was sent to everyone. It says that the Nassau-Suffolk Catholic High Schools Girls Athletic Association is actively engaged in discussions with state and local officials and is weighing all options regarding the interscholastic athletic seasons. The health and safety of our students, athletes is the top priority as we continue to work hard to provide opportunities for participation and engagement in athletics. As decisions are made, we will be sure to communicate them to you in a timely manner. This is about Red and Gold. We previously announced that Red and Gold is tentatively scheduled for April 19th. We will be communicating with you separately on this as we move forward. The Nutcracker is currently scheduled to take place live, and we are hopeful that this will remain true. In the event that we have to move it to a virtual show, we will communicate that to you. The Cedar Trip. The Cedar Trip is tentatively scheduled from March 17th to the 20th. We will need to see where we are with travel restrictions at that time. As we know, we will communicate that to you. We are evaluating the feasibility of international travel program and will provide you updates as they become available. Thank you for your patience, and I'm going to pass this along to Mrs. Crystal.
Mrs. Crystal, one clarifying thing, I think Red and Gold is April 16th, not 19th. So it's the Friday that we're tentatively scheduled.
Thank you, everyone. Good evening, everyone. I wanted to just go over a couple of topics with you, and these came from questions. The first topic we want to discuss is college visits. And I know they're very important for 11th and 12th graders at this time. Shaw, like most high schools, will not be entertaining college representatives on campus this fall. As a matter of fact, most representatives will only be connecting with students virtually and not going on the road this fall, as they used to say. They're not going to be really traveling very much at all. Therefore, we encourage students to attend virtual information sessions for schools in which they're interested. In addition, students should take virtual tours of these campuses and attend virtual college fairs. There's some big college fairs, and we will talk to you about them in the future and post all the dates and send them out. But few organizations are putting together wonderful virtual college fairs. We know that this fall, college campuses are worried about their own students on campus, and several colleges have even canceled in-person classes and are solely remote. They are encouraging visits. They're not necessarily encouraging visits to their campuses by prospective students. And yet at the same time, they still want to connect with you in any way that they possibly can. While many are anxious to visit colleges in person, we would want our juniors and seniors to exercise caution. So perhaps visit on the weekends or during Christmas, February, and spring breaks. Juniors and seniors can do drive-bys, drive-throughs, or tour colleges that are giving tours to those schools that are within any state that does not require them to quarantine. It is best to call ahead and make an appointment, of course. And if students have signed up for in-person school, we have to follow the same attendance policies. And that policy is that students can use up to 2 days for college tours, and this will be considered an excused absence, just so that you know that 2 of them can be excused. Seniors, you should have all received an email today to sign up for the ACTs on October 6th at Sacred Heart. If you are interested, as long as we are open, we will administer this test. We have plans for offering juniors the same opportunity in the spring. We hope to host it here as well, so that our students can take at least 1 SAT and or 1 ACT. We had a few questions about remote learning. Is there an academic difference between remote learning and in-person learning? We want it to be clear, the answer is no. Those students who opt for remote learning will be attending the same classes as they would as if they were in person. They will be logging in through Google Meets, and they will be in the classroom virtually. Academically, they will be able to ask questions of the teacher during that class time, as well as having access to their teachers during extra help sessions during the 10th period. Students will be given the same exams as well at the same time, and teachers will be proctoring them while they're proctoring students in the classroom. Well, certainly this begs the question, what about integrity of exams? Well, Shaw has an integrity and exam committee, and we are investigating ways to make sure that students are taking exams honestly, using their own knowledge, and not with any aids. In addition to that, it should be considered that students' grades during each quarter may comprise of different types of assessments, not necessarily all tests, and these might focus certainly less on exams. Ordinarily, students are given strict guidelines when they're taking a test, and those behaviors are no bending down, your head is forward, you're not looking this way and that, and the same would apply to the students at home. So if my daughter, here's another question, if my daughter is not comfortable, can she switch to virtual school? Well, as previously communicated, yes, we have listed those dates, and those dates can be found on the FAQs on our reopening page. In addition, students may, just so you know, students can switch in and out of online learning. There are just certain points to which you can do that. Another question is, if my daughter has a normal sick day, not COVID related, can they do online for the day that they are home? And the answer is yes. However, the student will need to be called in as present on remote to the attendance office. She will need to be present for each period from homeroom until 10th period to receive attendance credit for the entire day. However, if a student is too sick to complete the full day online, she will need to be called in as absent for the day. Testing, however, will not be allowed on those days for a student who is registered as an in-person student. Testing must be taken in the mode in which the student has selected, meaning If the student has selected to be an in-person student, she will need to take all her exams in person. A sick student may take a makeup exam upon their return. And we will be looking for excessive absences in attendance. And if this is the case, we will address that all individually. We had a few questions about dance and gym, some questions about the uniform, some questions about exertion. I wanted to just clarify a little bit for you. For both dance and gym classes, girls should wear their official gym uniform under their uniform, t-shirt, under, shirt, and shorts under the skirt. Classrooms will no longer be warm anymore because each of them is going to be equipped with an air conditioning unit with airflow from open windows and open doors. So it should be comfortable for them to wear those 2 light layers of clothing. Since our dance classes are not competitive necessarily, they're not considered high risk. They will follow physical distancing whenever possible and follow mask wearing protocol. Gym classes, when held indoors, will be physically distanced by markers on the gym floor. Girls will also be following mask protocol as well in gym. Gym classes, however, will most likely be outside whenever weather permits. Students should bring socks and sneakers on gym days and should always have Shaw sweatpants and sweatshirt for cooler weather in case they go outside for gym or for even other classes. In addition to gym, if the tents are not signed out, teachers may take their classes outside, including study hall classes, and in particular, music classes. I wanted to let you know, it's just an FYI, that we've ordered special singing masks for the girls. While they sing, they actually have an extra pouch, and it gives them more air to breathe, and it is rewashable, and they can have it and take it home and rewash it, as well as special filters for instruments. So another few questions came in about lunch. Just wanted to kind of clarify that and get into a little bit more detail. Students are going to be attending school periods 1, 2, 3, 4. After period 4, they're going to stay in that same classroom and they're going to be eating there for period 5. So their period 4 class is their lunch period class. The time allotted is only 20 minutes. Students may have noticed that period 5 lunch is called P4RM, which stands for period 4 room. Students will not have lockers, especially in the beginning of the year, and are asked to travel light. Backpacks should be able to be carried, and they should have their device, of course, their electronic device, folder, loosely paper, or a notebook to take notes, pens, pencils, calculator, water bottle, art supplies, sneaker socks for gym, like I mentioned, and phones. Let's make a mention of phones. Phones will be on their person. They will not be in their locker. Therefore, they must be turned off and away throughout the day. That's the motto, off and away throughout the day. And most importantly, in this bag, this backpack, is their lunch. Their lunch, I just want to remind you as well that their lunch should contain no nuts or tree nuts for those of students who have allergies. And our food service will be forwarding information shortly about a special app for ordering food to be delivered directly to students' classrooms. All orders will be placed the week prior, and then the student will be able to have lunch the following week delivered. Since physical distancing was some concern, each student will be given a privacy shield so that they can safely remove their masks and eat lunch. This privacy shields are soft plastic corrugated shields recommended by threat mitigation consultants, Parada and Company. These shields will be labeled with their name on them and for use every day. The shields are actually going to be given to the students, their own one, in a special bag that will be labeled, and they will be able to use them. They almost remind you of kind of a science board, but much smaller, and it'll be able to sit on your desk, and it'll be your own little shield so that you can eat. Although lunch may have been looked at as the social time in the past, this year's lunch will be used solely for eating. But that's why we have 10th period, and I'll go into that in a few minutes. Parents are certainly welcome to send their daughters in with their own barriers as well. One might be a face shield. So if they take their mask off and they have their face shield on, that is another type of barrier. And the barriers are used really so that in case somebody sneezes or coughs, that it would be in that area. We'll talk a little bit to the students. We are going to be giving them protocols on how to clean their desks. And we're also going to be, especially during lunchtime and also during every period. So the students will get all of that information during the first week. Once academics are completed for the day, we move to 10th period and then dismissal. 10th period, I hope is going to be a very, very exciting period for the students. We've posted the 10th period club schedule to our reopening site. A lot of thought went into scheduling time for the students to commingle and to explore their interests. And we hope that your daughter will really enjoy this extra period. Students will be viewing screencastifies or videos of each club during the first week of school during the 10th period. So during the first week of school, students will be attending 9th period. It will roll into 10th period, and at that time, each day they will be learning about all of the different clubs. There are 47 different clubs from which to view and to choose. They may send an interest email to each moderator, and then clubs will start on September 14th. More information will be given to the students as we go through the week. The 10th period will be helpful for our 9th grade students, of course, but it's also a time for 10th, 11th, and 12th graders to be with each other. If a student does not go to a club or does not go to extra help during that time, they will be, they can go to the theater, and in the theater, they will have to sit socially distant where the marked areas are for them to sit, and they can socialize with their friends wearing masks, and they can also study. So period 10 will also have extra help sessions built in where a student may seek assistance from one of their teachers, and we'll have that posted as well. All remote learners will also be able to participate in 10th period activities through Google Meets. They will have to contact the club moderator to let them know that they would like to join, but we will have a Google Meet session for them. Once a student joins a club, they should attend regularly so that it counts for their resume. And if they cannot attend, perhaps to attend extra help, they should reach out to the club moderator. And now I'd like to pass this program on to Sister Jean. Oh, and if I haven't already mentioned it, grade 12, we did make a decision that students in grade 12, after October 1st, we will begin, students will be able to leave early if they do not partake in any of the clubs. So I just wanted to let them know, but seniors will be getting more information about that. I would hope that seniors will take advantage of that time for extra help, and they will probably even have some time to work on their Bloomberg project to be certified. So I think that they will want to stay for period 10, but in case they don't, then grade 12 privileges will be in a special format, and forms will be given because you need special permission in order to leave the building. Great, thank you very much. Sister Jean?
One comment we received, and I quote, is, "I'm pleased that diversity and inclusion are part of opening week. How and what will be covered, and what will the follow-up be?" So this is our plan. During the mornings of September 8, 9, 10, and 11, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, all students will participate in 2 programs. The first program is a program we have used over the years with students and with great success. It's called Interact. It's an outside company with the theme empathy, inclusion, and kindness. Actors perform vignettes on social issues, and then the students and the actors have an opportunity to interchange. This year, it will be done by Zoom. Also, because students have been away since March, this program will serve as helping students re-enter, adjust to being back to school, and build as a social emotional bridge from last year to this year. The second program, also on Zoom, is a program called Trill or Not Trill. This is a company that does diversity training and comes highly recommended by the education consultant used by all the schools sponsored by the Sisters of St. Joseph. The theme will be, what does diversity, inclusion, and equity look like when Shaw students lead with heart? On September 3rd, the morning agenda for our staff faculty meeting day will be diversity, equity, and inclusion. Over the past months, we have had listening sessions with students, past and present parents, faculty, and staff. We've had conversations with a diversity consultant, and we've established a DEI task force to assist Sacred Heart in its mission to be a community of inclusive love. Our theme this year is living and witnessing God's justice at Shaw. Becoming free of all prejudice, biases, and racism in our hearts, we know is a continual and long process of inner conversion and communal conversion. But having said this, we can start now to implement steps that raise the level of our consciousness and our behaviors. So now, Mrs. Graham will continue our meeting.
Thank you. I think we have a couple of minutes left for questions that have come in during the chat function. So Megan Von Elman, our communications department, will help kind of feed us those. And Megan, if you can direct them to the appropriate administrator, we'll try to jump in and answer them.
We're going to start with someone asked, will the community service requirements be changed for this year?
Community service is going to be suspended this year. If the girls can do it, we would really appreciate them, doing as much as they can. We know it's difficult for them to get into certain areas to work, but if they can, it would be great. We'll just add it on to their resume, but it will be suspended this year. So
as a requirement. Yeah.
As a requirement, yes.
Next question is in regards to the virtual Meet the Teacher nights that are on the calendar. Why isn't there one for grade 12? Last year there wasn't one for grade 11, and the parent wants to have the opportunity to meet her daughter's teachers and hear about their courses.
So this year is a little different. I guess in the past we haven't had Meet the Teacher night for 12th grade. I think that the teachers used to come and my guess is, and Mrs. Sullivan, you can probably go about the history that many parents didn't come or show up for that. However, this year, what we're going to require all the teachers to do, well, I don't know if I should tell them yet because we haven't actually mentioned it, but what we'd like for them to do is for them to make videos of themselves, and actually we're going to have an evening that you will be meeting them through their videos, and you'll be able to communicate with them. So we do hope that all of the teachers, 9, 10, 11, 12, are going to be partaking in that, so that you will get a feeling for their classroom, for what they are going to be doing. But we do have to do this virtually this year. And we'll do it on the evening that we have prescribed. But we will tell seniors when that evening will be.
This parent is asking why temperatures should be taken at home if they're being taken at school.
The protocol that has been given, that's been asked that we do at most schools, is that they do a self-check at home, and then we do a check here. So we're just following the protocol that has been set out by the guidelines. New York State has set that out, and most schools are following that protocol, where it's self-check, and then we would do a second check.
And I know we discussed a little bit about the Disney trip. If there were travel restrictions to go on a plane or go to Florida or another state, could something local be arranged for the seniors that's not on the grand scale that Disney is?
I guess we would have to just discuss that as an administration and see what's going on. I don't think we can make a judgment call at that point, but I'm sure we could come to some consensus on that.
What if a student is absent with a non-COVID illness? Do they need medical clearance to return?
Well, if they're calling in to us and they're just saying my daughter has a headache or whatever else, no. But I would think most parents, with all the, the listing of things that was part of COVID, I think most of us as parents would, know one way or the other if they want to bring, their daughters to a doctor. But if it's something that they have cramps or whatever else, then no.
There's a couple questions regarding the gym uniform and some concerns about them being able to put the shirt and shorts on underneath their uniform. There's a question asking if there could be a designated day where they can come in their school uniform or bring their gym uniform rather with them so they can change into it.
They can. We don't have a problem with that. It's just that there aren't that many areas that the girls will change. I mean, if you've been to the gym, we do have a small area. We just don't want them congregating and getting changed in those small little areas. And that's the reason why we're trying to avoid that they do wear them. But, most of the girls wear them under I hate to say it, but they do wear it under their uniform. I see them walking around, maybe not this particular parent's daughter, but we do see them walking out there, their shorts and their shirt. But if you'd like to, feel free to send them in a separate thing and they could change in the ladies' room. That's up to them and up to you as a parent.
I want to be clear about that they have to come to school in their regular school uniform. Yes. And then change it into, say they have to do that. They can't just wear sweats and a t-shirt. And that's mostly because we don't always check all the schedules. Students have gym only twice out of the 6-day cycle. So we wouldn't know which students have gym, which students don't have gym if they just come in for 6 straight days wearing the same thing. So we do need them to change.
So this is in regards to the labs. There are 2 questions that I've seen in regards to the labs. One is how will labs be addressed for students doing remote learning, and then also just kind of general changes about labs.
I guess what we're trying to do is New York State said that we could do virtual, in-person, or a combination of the 2. So if you remember what you've gone through this past from March to June, when we did labs, we did try to do them, virtually. So we'll do a combination. So those students who are online, they're going to actually be in the classroom with everyone else. So does on a Google Meet? So if we're doing one that it's a real hands-on, we'll make sure that the student is home and doesn't have those particular pieces of equipment. We would have a virtual lab for them.
So this is in regards to going on college visits. If we as a family choose to send our senior to a college in person to a state that requires quarantine upon reentry to New York, will the student be able to do online learning for that quarantine period?
I know maybe even Sister Jean wants to answer this as well, but first of all, if you're doing that willingly, you're basically using days that are vacation days and they're unexcused absences, and that's what it would count as. I know that parents are eager to have their child go and visit, but at this time, it's just not a safe time. And while they're coming back, however, they chose in-person education, and they're being held to in-person attendance regulations, and we want them in school. If students for a particular quarter are not going to be home and they need online learning, they can switch to online learning, but it's quarter by quarter.
I think you'll get clear regulations about absent days and when you can switch and when you can't switch. We're working that out as we move along. So, and we're working it out with faculty and with chairpersons.
How and where will masses take place?
The week of September 8th, each level is having a mass, and that will probably be outdoors if we can do it outdoors. And then as the year unfolds, we're going to see if we can have masses the way we usually have on Friday, if we can get priests to come. That's our plan. And then we'll have to wait and see, how we evolve. But our plan is that we always have some large assembly masses. I don't think we're going to be able to have that in the theater because we can't have all 800 come into the theater. So we're going to have to look at whether we could have, the way we had graduation mass, to have the priest maybe in the theater or the chapel, and we virtually participate in our classroom.
Could the girls get access to online textbooks?
Online textbooks are not available through the districts. They're very, very, very expensive, but textbooks are. So a student has a textbook and they're going to be home. All textbooks should stay home. And teachers will also give students, there are a lot of websites that have these textbooks, and sometimes students can find these textbooks and pages online. They've been very resourceful students. They take pictures of the chapters that they have to read, and they have it on their computers, and they're very, very resourceful. So we do not want students to come into school with their textbooks. We don't want them sharing textbooks anymore. And I know Ms. Sullivan is in charge of textbooks for the Queens girls and in charge of textbooks overall.
We're almost at the 6 o'clock hour. Mrs. Von Elm, if we have other questions, please, take us into a little after 5 o'clock so we can be sure to answer as many as we can. So any other questions we can answer?
So we had a question regarding the brief 20-minute lunch period, asking why it's not 30 minutes and why it's 20 minutes.
It was all a matter of how much time we'd have for the 10th period, and 20 minutes should be enough time, we think, for students to be able to eat their sandwich. And usually lunch was longer than that. It was about 40 minutes. And most of the time the students were just socializing, eating each other's food, grabbing, the cafeteria, as you know what it is. It was a big social time. So we cut it down. Like anything else, we're going to see, these are all, our educated guesses as to what things will do. We do want students, however, to utilize bathrooms at different times. And just so you know, Purell stations will be in every single classroom. They'll wash their hands. They'll know the protocols about cleaning the desks. And things will usually, they run very seamlessly here, the protocols. And when I see how the classroom management is amongst teachers, it's really quite fantastic here. And just knowing that students our girls are very well behaved, and we know that the time will be a short time. Somebody has their not. It's a short time, but it should be just enough for them to eat. And that's also the time when they're taking their masks off. So the least amount of time for that, the better as well.
If I could just add on to that, one of the things that we need to concern ourselves with is that some districts will not give buses after 3 o'clock. So we want to make sure the girls have an opportunity to go to extra help and do clubs and not lose that piece also. So it was it's like a catch-22 and on how we would do this. And since they're bringing their lunch, it would just seem like it would, they're bringing their water and stuff like that. They're not spending a lot of time. If you ask your daughters, most of the time is spent online buying. So, it just works out a little bit. But as Mrs. Crystal said, we would try to reevaluate as we go along.
Okay, Mrs. Sullivan, this is for you. Can the girls wear gaiters? I'm not sure if you addressed that before.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I thought I mentioned that. That was my 9 to 10 period one, the 9th grade. Sorry about that. The girls can wear a Sacred Heart mask. Mrs. Graham, do you have your Sacred Heart mask? Okay, a Sacred Heart mask, which every student will receive at the first day they come to school. They can wear the surgical masks. They cannot wear gaiters. They cannot wear knitted masks, and they cannot wear masks that have the valves on them, because with the valves that allows any moisture to come out. So the only thing is a solid colored mask, the Sacred Heart mask, that's a solid. If they'd like to wear a face shield on top of the mask, they can't wear this face shield without the mask. except when they're eating, obviously. But the mask is the uniform, and then the face shield could be a supplement to that. So again, solid color masks, Sacred Heart masks, no gaiters, no knitted, and no mask with the vents on them. Thank you.
I have to also just make a quick comment because I've been talking to a lot of parents lately, and some of them have told me that their daughters in 11th and 12th grade, mostly 12th grade students, have been working at grocery stores or other places, and they have to wear a mask all day. And to earn that dollar, whatever they're doing, they actually got very used to it. And it was just something that became a part of you. And I felt that way this summer. I wore a lot of masks for many, many hours. And at many times, I didn't even realize that I had my mask on. So I'm sure those of you who are in healthcare fields and other fields and had to wear your masks, you can totally empathize now with teachers and with students. And I just wanted to let you know that it is something that people can get used to.
So maybe some final questions here as we reach the 6 o'clock hour and respect your time.
So we've got a few questions regarding the classroom layout, what the desks will look like, and if there will be plexiglass around the desks,
Right.
and what the barriers that will be in between the students and teachers.
Sure. So I'll answer that one. So also we've heard over the course of time too, did Sacred Heart Academy give thoughtful consideration to a hybrid model? Why didn't you choose to come back at a hybrid model? So the answer is yes, we gave a lot of thoughtful consideration. We really believe that given our community and given the academic program that we offer, we can be compliant with the guidelines offered to us by New York State in an all-in model. I will say, I think that does rely, as I said earlier, very heavily on the wearing of a mask. The physical distancing in our classrooms may not look the way you'll see in other physical distanced classrooms, especially elementary schools, smaller spaces, some of the Catholic high schools that have significantly less of an enrollment than Sacred Heart. That's easier for them to manage. Some of the schools that have significantly different physical campuses, that's easier for them to manage. But all of us are facing the challenges of this moment. I don't think there's any high school who's not facing the challenges coming back at 100% capacity of physical and social distancing. Each classroom will look different. So that's why we haven't posted pictures of classrooms, because there's no standard visual image to every classroom. There will be a barrier placed on the desk of the teacher, but quite frankly, most of our teachers do not teach from a seated position at their desk. Most of them are standing. They will be in front of their classroom, so there will be a significant distance between them and their students just by the configuration of their classroom spaces. And there will not be physical barriers around the desks of the students until the lunchtime period, which Mrs. Crystal spoke to. So it really does become very heavily dependent on the wearing of a compliant mask for us to stay within the guidelines of both New York State and the religious and independent schools.
And President Graham, I think you already mentioned about the computer labs all have plexiglass in between.
Class on the computer labs. As I said at the 9th and 10th grade session, I think we're a community uniquely well positioned to do this, because I think that we are a community who is all in. We're not only all in terms of our presence on campus, but we're all in terms of the investments that we've made to support this. We've put Tango boards in each of our classrooms, which give us the best opportunity to support remote learners, as well as students who may be learning in a remote capacity on a given day. We've also done that so that students and faculty can interact with each other during the 10th period in meaningful ways, and that it supports the educational mission in the best way that we know we can, in the event that we need to move to a different model. I've said this again, I think we're looking at a school year very different in terms of time than any other school year. The opportunity to look at a 10-month uninterrupted school year is likely not the case for 2020. We're really facing each period of time in the very best moment we can. We're preparing for a reopening. We believe that it's worth fighting for no matter how much time we get of face-to-face learning. We think that's going to make a difference. We have a lot of hope and confidence that's going to be as long as we can, but especially for our incoming 9th graders, especially for our students establishing new relationships with teachers, the face-to-face interaction between a student and a teacher, between students and themselves, is really an important part of the social and emotional and academic mission here. So That's sort of the underlying philosophy of why we've chosen to do this. When you make a decision like this, you have to be all in, right? You have to be willing to give it 100% of your energy, 100% of your commitment. And we know that we've experienced that from Sacred Heart as a community in other spaces. And we believe that we'll experience that facing the start of the 2020 school year. So we're grateful for your confidence. We're grateful to you for investing in Sacred Heart and for taking on this year with us. We promise that we will be transparent with you, and we're grateful to you for being transparent with us. So we continue to wish you and your families good health. We look forward to seeing your daughter in whatever capacity she's returning to school next week, and continue to stay safe and well. Thank you so much.